What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another movie review. I'm Chase Lee, reviewing for DallasMovieScreenings.com, and the movie I'm going to take a look at right now is Selah and the Spades. Now, this one comes from Amazon Studios and actually drops on Amazon Prime April 17th if you want to check this one out. This one is written and directed by Tayarisha Poe. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And this one tells the tale of 5 factions that run the underground life of Haldwell School, a prestigious East Coast boarding school. At the head of the most powerful faction, the Spades, sits Selah Summers, walking the fine line between being feared and being loved. And so that is the general plot to this. Not really much going on beyond that, but I'll explain myself in just a second. Going into this film, I didn't really know what to expect. I didn't know what it looked like, but what I did appreciate Amazon doing was pushing this movie as much as they could, because they know everyone's sitting at home right now. They want people to go log on to Amazon Prime and watch their content specifically. So they've been really pushing this film, and that's great. Please, get eyes on every single project, and every single movie that I review and stuff, whether I like it or not. I'm glad that they're pushing that stuff and making sure people have the option to see it if they want to. And also, the first trailer to this thing was actually pretty good. I like the moodiness of it. I like the high school drama that's swirling within it. It kind of reminded me of Euphoria and 13 Reasons Why, and I actually like both of those shows. Yes, I'm very well aware that 13 Reasons Why has a lot of problems with it and its messaging, but I still like its trashiness. I like trash TV, and then Euphoria I think is actually a really good high school drama, even if some of them take extreme story points and make them pretty ridiculous sometimes. I can still find enjoyment in both. So I thought that's what this film was going to look like and going to feel like. That's what the trailer kind of implemented. And I thought to myself, oh wow, this is totally up my alley. I love this type of stuff. Let's go. And I'm sad to report this is a bad movie. And I hate reviewing movies when I don't like them or if I think they're just fine. It is a slap in the face to filmmakers and the studio, the reps that try to push these films out there. It's not fun for me to do. I just want to say that. But I gotta be truthful with you guys. It's not a good movie. And okay, let me start out by saying this. There is a lot of promise to this movie. When we open up, we see all 5 of the factions sitting in tables in the woods. They're discussing things with each other. It's a council meeting for this school. These are teenagers, and they're having this really extreme conversation about what's going on and stuff that each faction can improve and the problems and everything. And it's satirical because it's so over the top. Why would teenagers do this? But at the same time, I get it, because in the mindset of teenagers, because we've all been there, the whole world is on our shoulders. There's a lot of pressure in society, into the school, friends, family, to be, a certain somebody. And you want to be loved, you want to be liked, you want to be someone. So I get that. The pressures of being a high school kid on the shoulders of these, kids, it's important to them. This is their life. And you feel like the whole world revolves around high school. And when you get older and it's insignificant at that point, but yeah, I just thought there was a lot of promise opening up with that, showing kind of the headspace and the mindset of these kids. And as the movie went on, we got glimpses of, certain people in the factions and how they interact with each other, what their headspace is like individually, and what they're just thinking in terms of being a part of this group or, at the head of this group and representing the group. There's a lot of great things going on. And with the plot I read to you, with Selah being, feared and loved at the same time, she understands that. She understands that she's the head of this faction. She needs to, be powerful, be fearful, but she's also realizing she's pushing people away. So she wants to be loved more. She wants that affection just from anyone, just to have a deeper relationship with people, rather than just be the face of a faction. All that stuff is great, and I understand those themes. I seriously understand those. It doesn't do anything with it. There's no weight to anything. It just has moments of dialogue here and there that have Selah briefly talking to an adult, by the way, which, side note, where are the adults in this movie? I realize it's a private boarding school, but there's no adults around. There's like maybe a teacher and a parent here and there, but these kids are doing ridiculous things. Someone needs to call their parents. But we have a couple of moments where like we see Selah talking to an adult or talking to one of her friends about, you know, the conflictions that she has with being feared and being loved, but it doesn't, like I said, that's it. What the plot I just read to you is the full hour and 37 minutes. And when the movie ends, I felt like, first of all, this could have been like a series. This could be extended out more. I'd be curious to see more with it and more substance to it. But that's it. Nothing really mattered when we got to the end of the film, and that made me angry. I felt like we just wasted our time. And this film is kind of a waste of time. So I'm sorry to admit it, but it is. So once again, I get all the themes, I get all that of, you know, power and being liked, accepted. I get that. It's you know, it's there. It's promising. It just doesn't do anything with it. A couple of the subplots just felt extremely unrealistic, even in this type of setting, this moody atmosphere of these kids and like the world that's created within this boarding school. Even I couldn't get into the ridiculousness of some of the subplots, especially involving drugs. None of that felt realistic, even for this movie. And I was like, no, it felt like a different movie. It didn't gel well together, and it just had inconsistencies in story flow, story transition. Everything felt like it was its own separate thing, and it was just clumped together to make one, you know, mediocre movie at best. So I had an issue with some of the subplots. Didn't really make any sense to me, even in this kind of like extreme world of these kids. Even I found that to be unbelievable. Speaking of inconsistencies, what I mentioned at the start with the promise of the film and the themes that, you know, Poe was kind of going for in terms of delivering in story and character, those parts were fine. And they had some style to them. They had some aesthetic, you know, fast cuts, canted angles in the cinematography. They had some interesting, like I said, edit choices, music choices. All that stuff was kind of cool. And it actually set this movie apart from other stuff that I've seen. But then we get into the dialogue and the meat of the film, and we get to see the interactions between these characters. It was dull, it was lifeless, and it was like, once again, watching two separate things. So there's some inconsistency with tone as well. You know, some of my favorite parts where there was a photographer taking photos of Selah and like the Spades and everything. Selah would talk to the photographer, but she was talking to us, getting into her headspace, her mindset, into being the head of this faction, the weight on her shoulders, and the responsibility that she has. That type of stuff was great. And I was like, that's a really interesting way to convey that. Because in this particular scene, she's talking to a photographer, but she's talking to us. She's breaking the fourth wall. That's kind of cool. So, like, once again, glimpses. Just stuff that would kind of shine through and be like, oh, that was great. Let's kind of follow through. And then we would get back into something else. And it just becomes dull and lifeless. Kind of a waste. And like I said, I hate dogging on this movie because I know there's a lot of people that worked on this movie. Making a film is hard. I understand that. But this just did not click with me on any level whatsoever. Directing-wise, story-wise, or character-wise, it's either characters I didn't really care about following, or they didn't explore them enough. The visual aesthetic was there, just not amplified enough, and it was just inconsistent in story, subplots, style. It's just kind of crazy that there was a lot of stuff there that they could have picked from, just did not execute the way I think Poe wanted to have it executed. And I do think that this film thinks it's more important than it thinks it is, and that's also kind of a problem. Even with the kind of like extreme examples that these kids go through in this kind of like really fictionalized version of high school and how, you know, high school life is, because I know not every high school is like this. It didn't seem even believable for this movie. Couple of things that were good, I guess. Performances were fine to good. They kind of ranged. The young lady that played Selah, I'll pull up her name really quick. Lovey Simone, she was fine. I think she did a lot more with the material than what she was given, and she tried to amplify each scene with some emotions that we were kind of drawing out of her. And it worked sometimes, but for the most part, following her as a main character, her performance did not save it. A couple of other people, Jerome, he kind of plays her friend, and he was probably the best part about the movie, even though some of his stuff was kind of didn't really feel like it had any weight or any substance to the entire movie. I felt like his performance was actually the best in terms of just how he was feeling and just kind of like the conflictions that he had and just everything. I found his character to be a little bit more interesting than most. And also, I kind of liked Celeste O'Connor. She kind of plays the new girl, the photographer, that kind of comes into Selah's life, and, you know, Selah kind of feels threatened by her. I thought she was pretty good. But yeah, it's just kind of weird that the supporting characters kind of outshone or outshined the main character and the main actress. And then, like I said, some of the cinematography, when I mentioned it earlier, that was kind of cool, I guess. Some of the cinematography was really reliant on canted long shots, which I found interesting. It almost gave this film kind of an observational kind of feel to it, where we're just really observing these characters from a far distance. We're kind of like spying on them almost, and just seeing kind of the debauchery that these kids get into. And some of the other stuff was interesting on how they played with symmetrical kind of like fourth wall breaking and stuff. So some of the cinematography was actually pretty interesting and it made it unique and fresh, but that's as far as I go with the pros is that, and the performances. Everything else I just didn't really care for. I ultimately found at the end of this movie, when the credits rolled, this movie could have been longer, it could have been fleshed out more, and it definitely could have had more weight to it and feel like something different in this kind of like high school teenage subgenre. So unfortunately, I'm going to give Selah and the Spades a D. Didn't really work for me. I'm sorry, but maybe you will feel something different. Go check it out on Amazon Prime starting April 17th and let me know down below whether you love this movie or hate this movie. Call me out, call me stupid. That's totally fine. I'm willing to engage in conversation, and maybe you enjoyed it. Maybe you found something a little bit deeper than the themes of, you know, power and responsibility for these teenagers, and, you know, the world on their shoulders and being accepted, being loved. Maybe you found something deeper than that. I found those things there, just not explored enough. So let me know down below what you thought of Selah and the Spades, and that will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee for DallasMovieScreenings.com. Please, please, please like this video. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want more reviews and everything. I have a podcast feed, Reel Me In, a movie podcast, on all podcast platforms. Please check that out. Subscribe to that feed for extra content, reviews, just whatever you can imagine. We're trying to do the best we can in the situation that we're in. But that will do it for this review, guys. I'm Chase Lee, and tune in next time for whatever I review next. I will see you guys later.